Good morning. This is Lisa with Lisa's Landscape and Design again, and we just had our Avery Ranch annual garden tour, and since things are all neat and tidy back here, I thought this was a great time to take advantage of our up-and-coming heat and show you our month-to-month documentation of native and adapted plants in their environment. This is a feature that I did last month, and of course there's Lily. She's got to get in on the picture every time. These are some tomatoes that I grew in a sandbox, and you can see they're not doing any better, frankly, than any other potted plant, because they still have a reduced amount of availability as far as their roots are concerned, and they frankly are, they get so much wind through this backyard, they've kind of taken a beating. Although you see they're producing like crazy, but so are the other plants in the garden, and I'll show you those in a second. They're just not, they haven't gotten as big. So let's take our tour. This is my spider composter. I put one out for sale this weekend. I keep those around. It's a cool composter. We'll feature those at some point. But I wanted to right now focus on the garden. And I want to show you, this is kind of my shady spot back there. If we can get around the furniture, I'm going to try not to make this too shaky. It's hard when we're moving. My daylilies, one of my favorite plants in the garden. It goes all summer long. They're in every color you can imagine, and shape and different style, and I just think they're extraordinary. And I'm going to loop around, and I want to show you how this garden is looking right now. We are May 30th, and so the heat is on. We've been in the 90s here for a couple of weeks. We got a nice spring for a change with regard to the rain, but we really have not had much more this month. We got a pretty decent rain event. A lot of wind has been going on the last few weeks, so of course whenever you have all that wind, you greatly reduce what water you're able to capture and maintain on the property, because it's lost through evaporation. So this is just an example of my version, Lisa LaPaso with Lisa's Landscape and Design, my design style of how I use native and adapted plants. This is a Jerusalem sage. Had a lot of people ask me at the tour what this plant was. This is the flower that's on it. It's pretty interesting. But I want to show and feature my idea of what native Xeriscape looks like. I don't like spiky and pointy. I don't like stabby. I have dogs and children. I want them, like Lily's doing right now, to be able to tour through the garden and enjoy this space without fear for injury. Any garden, of course, you have to be careful with plants that you're using. If you have small children and animals that are prone to eating plants, you kind of need to be a little more mindful. My garden is over 50% edible, so even things like the daylily flowers, the herbs, of course, that I have all throughout here. Stonecrop, the petals and the flowers are edible. There are many varieties of plants that you probably don't even realize produce such beautiful flowers. Of course, I've got a ton of salvia and sage. Those are true performers in the Xeriscape garden, because they're prolific bloomers, and they're severely, they really put up with a lot of nonsense from our Texas environment, let's face it. And while my tree this year did unfortunately succumb, this is a Kiefer pear. It is one of the most disease resistant when it comes to fire blight. It did succumb, as you can see on top. When we have a cool, wet spring, the bees pollinate and they spread the disease, and I lost probably 40% of this tree, although it's still hanging on to quite a bit of fruit. You have to admire its perseverance. And then we continue on through my pond. Of course, we've got tons of goldfish, and they're probably about 7 or 8 inches now. They're several years old. We're able to sustain that life in addition to all the plant life, and many birds and other animals come. My yard is set up as a wildlife sanctuary, and I encourage the wildlife, and I grow plenty of production so that I can share. I also want to show my pomegranate tree, which is very desperately trying to hang on to all of its fruit at the risk of breaking branches. I've already had to reduce a significant amount of this fruit. It's the wonderful pomegranate that I featured in past posts, and I wanted to show it because after it blooms, which the blooms are fabulous, then it produces just hundreds of fruit. It's consistent every year, and I'm never disappointed by the volume of fruit that we get out of this plant. So I just want to quickly kind of sweep. Here is my coral bean. I'll do a feature plant pick of the day on this. The day I was coming out to do it, we had the storm that took down my apple tree, and the apple tree landed right on top of the coral bean and kind of sacrificed itself. But you can see that was only a few weeks ago, and it has made a pretty fantastic comeback. So blackberries are going crazy back there. Had to put a bird net. The birds were not leaving enough to share. My kidney wood is already blooming. Roses are still blooming. Of course, we got the rain barrels. And then I want to feature my herb garden, which this is a technique of square foot gardening, but it's not the traditional, gridding out every foot. It's just using every ounce of space as efficiently as you possibly can to get maximum production. This is a baby methyl plum that you see we're fighting the birds trying to get a few for ourselves, but what we have gotten are just delicious. And then here is my square foot garden. I've got tons of herbs. I love herbs. I don't think you can have enough. You see the flower production. You can see the chamomile up front with the daisy looking flowers on top. My curry is getting ready to bloom. I love basil, so there are many different varieties of basil in my garden. And then in the tomatoes, which I kind of want to zone in here, these are the ones in the pot. Same thing as the sandbox garden. Not doing fantastically as the children in the garden are. They just are able to get a much deeper root system set up, much wider. I have to water them a lot less. It's fun doing experiments, but sometimes, you just find that it was just that, an experiment. But my tomatoes, I've gotten, I would say a couple quarts a day. I have several of them collectively, and they've just been a lot of fun. My husband and I enjoy them tremendously. And we have made great use of all of our space. I just have this walkway that goes through all the way through the garden on both sides. And then the rest of the property I have gone through great measure to try to mimic nature as much as possible and create kind of a rainforest, if you will, or at least look like my home was put in front of this garden, not the other way around. And it's completely xerophytic. There's no grass. And then what I do have a little space back here where I put some potted plants that I can maintain. But you get a vision kind of overall where I'm going with my style of Xeriscape design. This is Xeriscape. This is how lush and fabulous and colorful the butterflies, the hummingbirds, the bees. Oh, the bees. I heard on a number of blogs people didn't have bees because they were all at my yard. And then, of course, the nests of birds that eat all the bugs up, so you don't have those kinds of issues. So when you have a symbiotic relationship with nature, this is how you're rewarded. And we'll feature this yard each month to show in a drought, once a week watering, how beautifully a Xeriscape landscape really can be. And with that, go get your garden on.